Alright, hello you lovelies and welcome to KoiCast. I am Koi Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. I am joined by a people, as ever, Jake Lloyd Bacon. He is a people and he is making this sound as glorious and clear as it possibly can, for he produces with such zeal and fervor. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing fantastic. As you know, I am people.
You are people. It's a good thing to be.
And, you know, there are varying types of being as people.
Right.
And one of them is fantastic.
I mean, that's a good way to live. It's not the worst. It is late January here, and it's also, and we'll get to this as a story, but it's also the last day where we have no idea about one of the biggest pop culture announcements of our time. And I think that's
hyperbole.
Okay, one of the two biggest studios in the world is banking everything they have on two individuals who are choosing an unprecedented announcement.
For their very specific comic book inspired
What's bigger at
universe.
WB than the Turf Queen's own Harry Potter? Like, there's nothing else WB's got right now to scale.
I don't know. Okay, maybe.
Sony's been doing Spidey.
But don't they also just like make other huge movies that are not IPs?
Name three.
That's not fair to do to me because I'm not as plugged in as you are.
But
so I can't think of three specific. I don't know who makes all the movies.
But like IPs are running the world right now. So you can't, even without hyperbole, you can't argue that.
But you did say, even if I give you all of those things, you said one of the biggest pop culture announcements of our generation.
Oh, I think I said our time. Either way, it's big.
It's a lot.
Well, it's not untrue. I think DC doing well makes Marvel work harder, which makes things bigger. I think Marvel's the biggest thing in the world still after, 18 what?
Wait, what about Avatar?
I mean, have you heard anyone talk about Avatar except the money it's making? People are seeing it, but it's not like a conversation.
Yeah, we still haven't.
It's a very interesting time where IP is huge, but also I don't talk about Avatar. It's perfectly fine. I think WB, this announcement, what makes it so big is not only the amount of characters, but also it's we don't know how it's being announced, and that's so exciting. That was the point I was going to make before I was appropriately called out for my hyperbole. But we don't have anything to weigh this against because there's never been something of this scale with a mystery on it. Like when you have a Comic-Con, you announce it way ahead. When you've got a press release, all these things, James Gunn could literally yodel it at his home. We don't know how he's going to release this information, and that's so exciting.
Sure.
That's a kind of a one-on-one experience that we're the last episode of recording something that will be a big or small, a zeitgeist shift. That's cool.
Right. Sure, I suppose so.
It's like a C-section. We're going to have a baby. We know it's coming.
So is the idea now, though, we talked about this a little bit at D23, whereas the idea now, announcements are also a new form of entertainment?
100%. Announcements are content. And that's the difference between art and content, which you correctly, fixed me on.
Threw up in my mouth a little bit.
It's not art, but it's content.
All right.
Because art is things that make you feel, and this is something that's going to make us feel, but it's purely for setup. It needs to be delivered artistically. I'm sure there's going to be some showmanship to it, which is why you hire James Gunn. But I'm also very curious at, DC Fandom was really impressive. They did a really cool thing that made a con feel like you could watch it at home.
Right. I hope he announces the DC lineup with the Guardians of the Galaxy cast. That's what I hope
they read out Oscar envelopes,
but in character, and his brother is just crouching, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we couldn't afford to actually do the rocket VFX, but you get the idea."
I hope they announce it on Vero, like Zack Snyder does.
Vero? Oh, I forgot all about that.
That's because Zack Snyder's been making Star Wars movies instead of DC movies, so Vero's irrelevant again. Right. I swear he owns stock. But yeah, so today's the last of something, which is exciting. We also have
because this will come out on the 1st, in which everybody already knows.
Yes. So we are in the 30th, and it drops the 31st, and you'll hear this on the 1st. So we thought it'd be fun to later on we're going to give some of our own predictions and hopes. We also had the Oscar announcement this week. I am fairly invested in the Oscars because I do think it raises awareness for films that are not just IPs, that people that maybe only watch Marvel and DC movies might then go well, it got an Oscar nom, I'll go see it. And as I get older and crankier,
that might be the only argument for the Oscars that I
think that's why awards are important. Yeah, because I mean, award season raises awareness for films.
But also, it raises awareness for films that can afford to
the politics
to be nominated as Oscars. Yeah, sure. So it raises awareness for movies that already made all their money back.
I think
it's not like it raises awareness for the countless small indie movies that are nobody's ever going to see, that the filmmakers have literally gone broke making.
The most noms of any studio is A24 though, so that does speak to
who's by the
biggest
way
indie house.
who, by the way, is making money hand over foot.
Finally,
like they're not yet.
They're not hurting.
They might be a quote independent film company, but they're not. Though.
It's like Image is an independent comic company.
Exactly. Yes.
But do you not want to support Image when Marvel and DC are thriving? That's what I'm saying. This is why we have a show.
I said it's the best argument. I didn't say it's a good one. It's the best argument for the Oscars.
Yeah, I think that I, as an award junkie, that's more art I enjoy. I do like award shows.
I don't even know who was nominated for anything.
That's why I'm here.
Great.
That's what I do. So this is why the show exists. Jake to go like, I don't even know or care. And me to go, you should care. And he'll be like, I accept some of these terms. And that's what we do here at Koicast. If you're a first-time listener, this is the whole vibe.
Listen,
if you're a long-time listener, you know this.
I'm a hypocrite. I'm dying to be nominated for an Oscar one day.
Sure.
Only so that I could not show.
Oh.
And deny it. That's my dream.
To deny it.
That's my dream.
Your dream is to deny an Oscar.
Yes, exactly.
That's really funny and very
and to be like, the Academy is bullshit. This is all.
Well, you got to show up to do that.
You're all hypocrites. Oh no, I'll
you'll like tweet it or whatever the equivalent is.
Yeah. What did one you just said?
Vero.
I'll Vero it.
I like the idea of like getting on Friendster, like doing some obscure social media.
I'm gonna tout it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tout it.
You'll make a Vine. But yeah, it's an interesting week because I feel like everyone's waiting on James Gunn, which is it's a fascinating thing. Also, January is historically slow. Looking back at years past, usually this is when you put like horror movies out and stuff. Megan did really well. They announced another Megan. But what have you? I mean, I like that you're more removed than me. Has anything jumped out to you in the last couple weeks?
That's new stuff,
or just like anything that's happening in pop culture that's been like, oh, that's interesting. Because you watch more late night.
Nothing that we want to talk about.
Nothing positive.
Nothing that we want to talk about. Hang on a second. I need to turn into a child. Shazam!
Dude, that was a fucking choice.
Nothing has popped into the forefront. Like you said, it's. I guess you know what the big pop culture thing that's occurring right now, is I'm kicking myself for never finishing the Last of Us video game because everybody's touting how good the show is, and I'm adamant like, no, I want to finish the game.
Oh, are you trying to finish the game?
Yeah, I'm like, I want to play because I started it ages ago, and I didn't not finish it out of a lack of desire.
It's a great game.
I not finished it out of a lack of time. Like I started playing it at a time when I had like a free day.
Yeah.
Not a free couple weeks or a free. And so I started it thinking like, oh, I'll just check this out. And then I immediately went like, oh shit, this is going to be my life for a couple weeks.
Yeah. And I didn't have the life.
And I didn't have the time to give that. So I was like, so I shelved it.
Yeah.
And then I started another game that I was able to finish in like 2 days.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
I know exactly.
And I never went back to it.
I've totally been there. Yeah. I've started comics like that where I'm like, oh, I'll see what the first couple issues are in this run. And then it's a 60 issue run. You're like, this is fucking incredible.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's too good to continue.
Yes. You need to put a pin in it.
Exactly. And then I read that 12 issue mini and I'm like, that's good.
You're having some microphone problems, it looks like.
It's
slipping
it's a
down.
directional issue.
It's because this one right here is done too far out. So do this one.
This one.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to teach Koi how to use a mic stand live on air.
There it is.
Okay, now pull the whole thing closer to you. The whole thing. Put it right up against the couch. And now,
boom,
that one will work better. This one right here, I'm pointing to this on the other side. There we go. Nope.
Here?
Yeah, there you go. Loosen that up.
And
then raise it higher and then tighten it like a sumbitch.
There it is, guys.
That should be a little better.
You'd be so enticed.
Maybe.
Yeah, does it sound better?
Maybe. Yeah, I can hear
I think
you.
it sounds better.
Yeah.
Here we are, guys. This is what YouTube's
Remember
for.
when we were like, hey, we wanted to spend a little bit more time making the show really quality.
There it is. You guys heard it in real time. Behind the scenes, quality enhancement. Last of Us, I've watched the first 2 episodes of. I did not watch episode 3, which is apparently like...
Yeah, everybody's like, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah,
also,
and it's been real hard.
Spoilers for a thing I'm going to watch in a year
6 months or so. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's ambitious. But I played about 3 hours of The Last of Us game. And
you never finished it either.
No. And again, same reason.
Right.
I just don't game. And I can acknowledge that it would be a probably 10-time commitment for me.
Right, sure.
Because I just don't know the mechanics. I'm not good at gaming.
Oh, sure.
So like when I play a game, I'm like, this is really great, but I know I'm never going to finish. I finished the Spider-Man game and it took me like 3 months. Like it's just not a thing. Okay. And that's like me committing.
Sure.
So I played it and I was infatuated. Then the show came out and I was like, okay. And episode 1 is about to where I played to.
Right.
And I was so enchanted. I think I'm gonna go back and play the game, but I know I won't be able to do like what you're doing because of who I am. Yeah. But like it got me interested to play the game again, which is a testament to how good the show is.
When I say I want to finish the game, I'm not actively doing that.
Right. It's a concept.
What I mean by that is like I'm not gonna watch that show until I finish the game. Who knows when that's gonna end up being?
2027 Koicast. We'll cover Last of Us.
Listen, it's it definitely got bumped up on the list of like, hey, the next time I have some time to do that, like I dedicated a little bit of time to finish a quick game over the holiday.
I remember that.
And now I'm like, the next time I have one, I was like, that one got bumped up to the
Actually,
top.
that happened to me too, because I have Miles Morales. I have not played yet,
Yeah.
and that's next because I loved Spider-Man so much.
Sure.
And then I've been really wanting to play a racing game.
Okay.
And Wipeout was my shit on PS2
Sure.
and PS1. So I'm gonna buy that, and then Last of Us is gonna be my next narrative game. And it
Sure.
had been like, oh, I'll get around back to it, but the show is so good.
Right.
Like I can't believe how much I'm invested in it. Like I wasn't gonna cover it because I wanted to like finally just watch a show. But the cool thing happened that got me started in hosting, where I was like, oh no, I love this so much, I want to talk about it, and no
Right.
one's asking me to. It's want.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of nice to be like, wait,
Hey.
I'm doing this for the reason I started this?
because I'm a fan.
I'm not obligated?
I do have, because I'm an Uber nerd. You can't see it from where you're sitting, but I think I talked about this in a previous Patreon show. Maybe I have a spreadsheet of all of the games that I would like to play.
That's impressive.
And I have their IGN rating, and then I have their time to beat according to howlongtobeat.com.
Oh, great.
And it actually seems
Attainable?
It's only 13.5 Last of Us, considering that most of the games on my list here are 31, 45. Witcher 3 is 45.5 to beat. There's
13, that sounds like about 3 months for me. I was accurate. Like,
But
if I can get 2 hours in a month.
I feel like 13.5 is like, I will do that in 3 days. Like if I really,
if you commit.
Yeah.
So
or
maybe
if I'm
you'll
just,
watch The
or if
Last
I
of
just like literally don't have shit to do that day.
It
and
just
I'm
got
like, hey,
greenlit for season 2. Maybe by season 2, you'll be able to watch it with us. Like maybe you can
Right.
play,
There we go.
watch season 1, give you a little timestamp.
That's fair.
But yeah, Last of Us is incredible. I'm really impressed with the casting. I'm really impressed with the visuals. Obviously, not going to give anything away because Jake hasn't seen it, but everything everyone said is true. I'm enamored with it, and I honestly think this is like maybe the beginning of the video game curse shifting, because Sonic 2 was incredible as well.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that, but I like Sonic 1. That was very fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some recent duds that have, I think, reburied it, but I feel like the curse was broken a while ago with a few things, right? Like,
I feel like it's more
successes.
consistent good now, though. And you know, like the curse isn't a oneer. It's not like we
Right,
got one. I think it
right.
has to be like, hey, about 50% of video game properties are good. We'll consider this medium.
Here's the problem: is it'll take a long time for us to get to 50.
50 overall, sure, but like 50 in a year. Like, say 5 things come out
of this specific year. I get it.
Like, I'm saying the vector is going up. Like, when you look at quality, it's in an upward trajectory, which was not the case for the 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
That's fair.
U-Bowl hasn't touched anything, and that's nice.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see. It's exciting. Let's do the DC conversation. I want to know what you want out of the James Gunn of it all, because like I said at the top, tomorrow for us in this reality, in this timeline, we're getting the James Gunn experience. We don't know if it's dropping at midnight. We don't know if it's dropping at 6 a.m.
Right.
I'm really excited. What format would you want, and what is your your top 3 things you want to hear?
I mean, format? You mean like
how would you like it presented?
Like the actual movies or his
presentation?
Oh,
like what would be novel to you?
What will be novel to me?
Yeah, besides Quibi.
Is that if he released a comic book?
Oh, I like that.
And it forced people who want to know to go out and spend the money on the comic book. And the comic book was a narrative
genius
of the JLA trying to get James Gunn to tell them what his plan is.
Love it.
Or no, you know what? It's the other way around. It's like the villains have captured James Gunn and said, you need to know the plan. And it's the Justice League being like, hey, he can release it when he wants to release what his plan is. I love that
so much.
And it's like, no, it's an actual comic book. You have to go. You have to spend $2.95 minimum. You can't retweet it. You can't.
Like
can't. Like it's not. You can't.
It's copyright. You just flag it.
Oh, 100%.
Just like YouTube. It hears a song and boom, gone.
Or what I think J.J. Abrams should have done with Star Wars Episode 7.
Okay.
Which I always said that this trailer for Star Wars Episode 7 should have been. It still can be like trailers are 2 minutes generally.
Mm-hmm.
It's still 2 minutes long, and it's 1 minute and 57 seconds of just James Gunn sitting at like a desk in like a black void, like Charlie Rose style, and just sipping a coffee for 1 minute and 57 seconds. And then in the last 3 seconds, he looks up and he goes, oh, I'm making a fucking Star Wars movie. And then it just says this Christmas or whatever it was, right?
And just data.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
So that's what I think his trailer should have been. So for James Gunn, I think it should just be like a similar video that gets released, and it's just him like reading a comic book for a minute and whatever.
Yeah.
And then he goes like, oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot. We're going to make movies based on this stuff. You guys are going to like it. Just shut the fuck up and wait. And then that should be what it is.
And then we can, and for the people like in my field, we can dissect the comic books he has.
Here's
speculation
the thing.
galore.
No. He will be in front of a wall of images.
Yes.
That nerds like you
can zoom in on and go nuts.
Can be like, oh, here's a 65-minute video breaking down every Easter egg in the James Gunn announcement.
That's why it's art.
That was only 2 minutes long.
That's fine.
But it's like, oh, he used this photo of this from this issue in which Superman said that he was disappointed in Jimmy Olsen, so he's probably going to be killing Jimmy Olsen.
Zach already did that.
Yeah, I get it. But you know what I mean? Like
that's great.
That's that. I want that. I'm at a point now where I want creators to troll toxic fans.
Yep. I don't think,
and that's the joy I will get.
I don't think Easter eggs are toxic.
No. But that's what I'm saying. Trolling.
Oh yeah.
Like,
because I do think that's what he's done.
Using Easter eggs at this point to be like again, Morbius never walked past the poster. Okay, like trailers don't mean anything anymore. That's
honestly why I think he did January 31st, because he said he's going to do it in January from like December.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's literally he's been teasing it since.
Day.
And like, so he's doing what you want. It's happening in real time.
I love him.
And he's never said that it was going to be tomorrow yet.
Right.
He just never said when. So like, I literally went on a trip to see my family, and part of me was like, fuck, I might have to zoom back and like work.
Right.
But because none of us knew when in the 31st.
Sure. I love it.
That meme I shared today, you know that picture of April Ludgate in Parks and Rec, where she says, whenever you got an appointment, I always made it for March 31st. And Ron goes, why?
Because I didn't think it existed.
So I wrote January over March, and I said half of DC fandom right now.
Right. I didn't think January existed.
I didn't think January 31st existed.
So what do you want him to do?
I want him to release a bunch of titles of what he's doing. And it's actually kind of similar to what you're saying with comic books. I'd love for him to just promote comic books through it and be like, hey, we're going to make a Superman movie. I love Grant Morrison's run, and tie in comics to the announcement.
Same.
Because that'll actually get people in comic book stores. And I think that all the speculation you're talking about can then be founded in people either having to do the work, or even if they don't do the work, people that just make TikToks will have to at least hear and acknowledge those books.
Right.
And that'll give people that actually care a little bit of an advantage for once.
Right.
So I think like acknowledging the runs in the announcement, be like, hey, we're just going for a tone kind of like All-Star Superman.
Sure.
Just casual. And then speculation will run rampant for 2 years. It helps marketing. It gives you a long-term plan for like what tone you're going to set. And
speculation has never led to a problem in anything.
Well, but speculation's inevitable. So it's
use it to your
shaping
advantage.
It. Yeah. So I would say like do a presentation kind of like a fandom, have your like shiny floor set, and make the comic books a part of the presentation.
Yeah, are you tired of that though? I feel like the novelty of the like here's phase 2 era of Marvel announcing slates of movies and like Disney co-opting that now for like all Disney
everything
things,
they do.
It sort of feels to me like that's why I like your idea of like do something different. I don't know. It's also
that's what I'm saying. This is a step, but not too far removed from people's comfort.
Right.
Because you got to make it something that they're familiar with, but also add something new.
It's so funny that you say that though. Like we're familiar with like that's still new. It just became exhausted immediately.
In 3 years.
Yeah,
it's been like 3 years of it.
We've talked about this on the show. Like the expectations of like pop culture nerds and like the online fandom community is so absurd to me these days. Like you've talked about this on your social media too. Like we don't owe you shit. Anything. Yeah. And in fact, you talked about this at D23 when you were like, "Oh, what? No X-Men?"
Yeah, and I was
like,
"Whoa, I'm the problem."
Yeah,
and I've been very careful since. I'm so glad that happened because I was like, "I'm becoming the TikToks I hate." Well, yeah, and like that's a slippery slope. I think once you start down that path and you start feeling entitled, you become the fans that I think have ruined pop culture. And like I can see where that's exponential. Like you miss one thing and all of a sudden you're complaining about another thing, and then all of a sudden you're certain YouTubers that
and then at some point, are you actually a fan of this stuff? Are you really excited about it?
Exactly. And are you enjoying it because you're waiting for a moment that you theorized?
Right.
That's why I said the Snyder Cut, like, which I enjoyed, and I know you didn't as much, but like, that's why.
Did you just say, I know you didn't as much?
I always try to give you a little out. I always try to mend some steel. I'm just trying to give you the out. But the Snyder Cut I didn't think could exist because I didn't think it could ever live up to people's expectations. But my benefit was I didn't have the expectations that these people that dedicate their lives to it did. So I got to be like, man, this is going to be mediocre. And then I was like, I'm very happy. And I think that's why I enjoyed it. But I can't imagine dedicating my life to it to scale and then having anything register that big. Because the people who spent like 5 years of their life waiting for a movie. And no matter what, you can't have it live up to that. And I think that's why, like, you know, the Matrix and stuff. Like, I try to go into the Matrix always wanting a new thing, not what Matrix did to be in 99. Right. So I would love if James Gunn is able to somehow tie it into rewarding the comic fans from the seed that's planted. Right. So I think it'd be cool to, and like, you know, Shiny Floor has gotten old, but that is a visual dynamic that allows comic covers, conversation, those things, but it's still different.
Yeah. What my other issue with that, like of them just doing something similar, because we always say like, oh, what's the slate? Oh, what's the slate? And it's like, I'd rather them just tell me what's the first thing.
I'd like to hear the first like 3.
I don't even need the first 3, to be honest with you, because we've already seen how drastic things change, even with Marvel, who like, quote, has their shit together, and who's like, even those, there were days where we were like, here's the slate, and then some of those movies never happened, or they changed, or they were pushed, or they were merged.
Yeah. But not nearly as commonly as with DC, who's lost like half their movies in some years.
Of course, yeah. But
I mean, I think giving a shape is what this needs to be, because it is I think one wouldn't show the confidence that DC needs to show. Like DC needs to say like, we have a plan, and one isn't a plan, it's a movie.
Sure.
So that's why.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
And so that's a little tricky.
What do you actually want from the material? What are you actually hoping to see?
I think they're
going to do.
I think Superman is very. I would love for them to give me a tone, because we've talked about our Superman versus what Superman has become in like animated films and what Snyder and like all those things. I think that's one of the big reasons for the comic thing is like, this is the Superman we're making. I think he's a foundational part of DC.
Right.
I think he's the floor. So you start there. And then I would love to have a random character, like a more obscure character to James Gunn it up. You know, I'd love to hear about Booster Gold.
I was going to ask, what's going on with Blue Beetle? Is that still a thing?
It's still coming out, but
it's unconnected still.
We don't know.
Unrelated.
Because it apparently had connection to a thing in the future and referenced those things, and then they might have reshot all that.
And they're still releasing the Flash movie.
And the Super Bowl is getting us a Flash trailer. First time in like, I think 9 years, WB's put the money up for a Super Bowl trailer, and it's for Flash, which is insane.
Yeah, it's such a. I feel so bad for him. For Gunn, not but
like what he's literally in the worst position like of anyone of that level of power to have that level of power and have it be all losses.
Right,
because you do well, people still blame you.
Oh,
you're not appealing to DC. You're appealing to one side DC, one side Snyder fans. Those are different things now.
Oh, you are 100% correct.
Like they become separate, and you can have a Venn diagram, but they are separate entities.
Well, again, here's the reality: is the people in the middle of the Venn diagram, they're like me. I know that people are gonna be like, Jake, you literally are on a fucking podcast. We're talking about pop culture shit, so your shit is out there, but I'm not tweeting about it. Like people like that. I'm not posting videos of myself going like, this is crazy. I can't believe this happened.
Sure.
The only reason anybody knows my opinions about this is because of you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I did that to you.
But you're speaking to the listeners, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. But
so I think Superman and obscure character.
I had a point.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, wait. Shit. I was making a point about the James. Oh, yeah. So I feel like this stuff that's coming out, like, don't even acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because it has nothing to do with his slate.
And it would be messier.
Right.
To have people in the Midwest that don't follow this closely try to watch one thing
unrelated.
And go, and that's not an insult to Midwest. I'm using an example. People get mad at me when I say things like that. But like people that don't invest in the pop culture to the level we do.
Right.
It's nothing against what you decide to put your time towards, but it would confuse you more if you don't know why things are changing.
Right.
So I think an obscure character, Superman, and then like something about a team. I think you lean into like having the R-rated flexibility, like maybe a Justice League Dark. So maybe like, you know, a Superman, a Zatanna, and a Justice League Dark.
See, here's the thing. I was gonna say this is the one thing that I do hope is that we've talked about this before. I don't want them to just try to play catch up with Marvel stuff, and I also don't want them to go like, well, we're gonna do what we did last time, but this time the movies will be good. Do you know what I mean?
In which way?
And like, oh, here's one character. Here's one other character.
Team up movie.
Team up. Yeah,
See,
exactly.
I don't think Justice League Dark needs a setup. It could be its own. That's why I'm saying, like, if you want a team movie, do one that's not Justice League.
Right.
Do a Teen Titans over there.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
But I think establishing you're going to get a team movie to quell that concern, and then a obscure solo main. That's what I would announce.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is I just want them to just be kind of unrelated until they need to be related.
Until there's an event that requires it.
Yeah, and it's fine if they all take place in the same universe,
Sure.
but we don't need, the I knew Thor when he was a kid, like
God,
which we always reference. Like it's so unnecessary and it crushes any uniqueness and momentum that occurs.
I don't want to be waiting for someone to show up. I want to be enjoying that character.
Yes, exactly.
And I also think they should announce Matt Reeves' Batman 2 to make it clear that it's still coming, but not part of this.
Yeah, it's not part of the JGDCU.
God damn, I hope that's not the
JGDCU.
Rolls right off the tongue, the
James Gunn DC universe.
God, it's gonna be weird.
The DC. No. We're gonna call it. We have BC and 80. It's gonna be DCAZ after Snyder.
Oh,
DCAZ.
Man.
The DCAZ.
But isn't that a yes?
No. Yeah, Snyder. Zach is the S. I knew it. There was a Z in there.
You were right. And I knew what you meant when you said AZ, but then my brain was like, wait, that's not how you spell Snyder.
I was pretty sure I was right about the Z.
The Snyder cut is an exceptional shift.
Oh my God. Why doesn't he just combine his first and last name and go by Snyder?
Mick G style?
Yeah, Snyder. My name is Snyder.
Oh man, I'm actually really excited for his Star Wars thing. He's doing a movie that was originally going to be a Star Wars film that is now an original IP for Netflix. Comes out in December, and it's like a full space epic, but
it's not starter. It's not. So they are Italian Job 2ing
the Fast Five,
but not putting it into another franchise.
Yeah, which I think might work for him because I like when he does things that aren't tied to IP.
God knows he needs a fucking win.
I mean, people love zombie stuff. Like his stuff did well, but not like exceptionally good. I didn't like it.
Yeah, they're not good. Like those movies are not as smart as he thinks that they are.
That's a real, and that's why I think it might be good to do like a blind sci-fi.
What was the last movie? Was Watchmen the last movie of his that I really liked?
Watchmen.
Is that the last Snyder movie that I liked? Let's see. What are all of his movies? I never saw the sexist one with the girls.
Oh, Sucker Punch?
Yeah, the pro rape one.
Yeah, I saw.
I'm gonna get so many emails about that. Read between the lines, kids. Let's see here. Known for director. I'm gonna fire up the good old IMDb, which we don't really talk about because we're such letterbox people. Which the reality is I probably should. Previous, not Army of the Dead, not great. Snyder, Justice League, not great. Justice League, not great. Batman v Superman, not great. Man of Steel, not great. Sucker Punch, never saw it. Oh, Legends of the Guardian. You know what? That's probably the last good movie he made for his kids. Yeah, that one and Watchmen, and then 300. Yeah, so pretty much, I'm one of those douchebags who's like, yeah, I liked him before he became
mainstream. Before everybody found him.
Before he started doing more comic book stuff, even though his first movie was a comic book movie.
But his first one was the unfilmable that he managed to film I liked his changes. Whereas
with 300,
with
you mean?
Oh, actually, I like 300 as well.
I thought that's what you were referring to.
No, but like I think that his changes in Watchmen were fitting the medium. I think that
not all of them.
All of them.
The big one that we all I think is the ending.
The ending I think benefited the medium.
Well, I think it was also
thematically accurate.
It was also the sort of thing where not only was thematic, but it was also like the studio being like, yeah, it's one too many things,
right?
And him being like, all right, we can make this work. You know what I mean?
And I think that might have given him. And I just thought of this. I think that might have been the beginning of him going like, well, I can change Batman and Superman then. like you know what I mean? Like I changed Watchmen.
Here's the thing: is that he did the exact same. He did with Silk Spectre and Owlman exactly what he did to fucking Batman. And Superman.
That emboldened him. I just realized though, I love Watchmen.
Yeah, no. Murder is fine, even though the whole crux of the story is that that's the one guy who murders and that's not
right. Yeah, what's the comedian's problem if he's just another guy? Like, if everyone's the Punisher, no one is.
Or Rorschach, more specifically. Right, if everyone's Rorschach, nobody's Rorschach.
But the comedian was always like the villain that like was somehow charming, and somehow they made that Superman.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Superman should not and that's why I think you have to start with Superman.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest hill.
I will say it will be like getting a Superman movie out there that is tonally different and good and works. Will be the ultimate like, all right, everybody fucking relax.
Breathe, we did it.
Just sit down, shut up, and enjoy this because it's going to be good.
It's taken 45 years, but we found another Superman. Because I love Cavill, but he never got to play Superman, and I don't think Brandon Routh did either. I think he did on the show, I think the
Right,
Kingdom
yeah,
Come
but
take
when
was
they-
great. And I haven't started Superman and Lois yet, but I hear he's incredible. But I want a theatrical
Yeah.
Christopher
Yeah,
Reeve take.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Have you
We
seen
just
the
want-
Wolfgang dude that people keep saying is great?
The Wolfgang?
There's an actor, and he looks so much like fucking Superman. Like because of
And
the
his
hype.
name is
His
Wolfgang?
name's fucking Wolfgang, dude, and he looks like Superman.
But what's his actual name though? Because
I-
if I just search Wolfgang, there's so many people. Wolfgang Superman.
Yeah,
You think
I almost guarantee you that pops up.
Wolfgang Superman?
Does it pop up?
Wolfgang Novogratz.
Look at this motherfucker.
Might be next in line to play. This is not a real art.
That's a person.
This is clickbait bullshit.
No. Look at this dude. Well, yeah, that is clickbait, but like
rumors on the internet state. No, you know what? You can't keep my cookies website.
But look at this dude. He looks like a Frank Quitely drawing. Like
Yeah.
he's so Superman.
He looks like my old roommate.
I was just,
Who,
and
by
like,
the way, we were very much Superman and Batman, two of us.
I like that. Yeah, and his voice is good. He's got a very
Sure,
clear,
yeah, we got.
I
we got to pluck that unibrow though.
I'll work
I don't
on it.
think that they have unibrows on Krypton.
but they might. We don't know what they.
No,
what
he's
they're
a
doing.
very handsome. It's the chin. He's got the chin.
and he's built well when he's tall as fuck.
Yeah, I only just see a headshot, so I can't tell. But yeah,
I actually like watched acting clips because before I threw my weight behind like I want this now
Right.
I want this because that's the right age, that's
Right.
the right dynamic.
right.
So yeah,
What I want from the like, hey, this is the announcement, is I want him to almost like specifically draw a circle around the fact that he's not doing a extended universe. I would like to be like, hey, we are doing DC comic books as movies.
Yep.
Here is Superman. Here is Animal Man.
yeah,
Here is like things that
I'd love that.
are sort of like we
They
don't
don't
even
relate.
associate them with one another.
Right.
So that people don't have to do all of the speculatory. And then a couple years down the road, oh, guess what? Superman's going to show
A
up in
crossover event.
yeah,
Exciting.
exactly. Like a comic book.
Novel.
Yeah.
Because if you read comic books, yes, there's a Justice League, but not everyone from the Justice League is one
All the
consistent.
time. Oh, yeah.
And they're doing their own shit.
Yeah.
I think separating themselves as far from Marvel as they can is the
Right.
move. And I hope this announcement is like, we're not trying to be Marvel.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean too. Yeah.
Like very
Make it
consciously,
very
like, hey,
specific.
we're doing our thing.
Yep.
Because I honestly think that's how you keep, I know you don't love it, but Joker, I think that's how you keep the Batman. That's how you
Yeah,
keep.
I mean, again, I do feel like it shouldn't matter that those things exist.
It also
here.
allows this year's movies to exist with relevance. If they're
This year's
establishing
movies. What do you mean?
the Blue Beetle, like you referenced, Flash,
those
Shazam
come out
2.
this year.
This year, dude. There's 4 this year. There's fucking 4 DC movies this year.
What are they?
Shazam 2, Blue Beetle, Flash, and Aquaman 2. All this year.
They're still making Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2 is out in December of this year.
That's 12 months from now. You
It's-
think that they'll
it's
just shelve
done.
it?
I mean, they spent a lot of money on it.
They did. So did they did
That's
Batwoman
Batgirl, yeah.
or Batgirl.
That's true. But like, because they've filmed and then cut a Ben Affleck cameo in it. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with that movie. I think they've tried to like
Poor
retroactively make it tie in or not.
Oh, these poor employees.
So much money. And like, I feel bad for the crew and like all the people that are like, my big brick. Can you imagine having
Oh.
a scene in one of these movies and not knowing if the movie was gonna like keep you in, like,
Listen,
the
I
acting
can.
moment?
You know what? And it's by no means a role in a DCU movie, but I had that moment on a television show that was very popular that I was completely cut from. I know that moment. I was like, hey, first good guest star credit, and then guess what? I ended up being an extra in that fucking show.
I had a similar thing with a big movie.
Because it was just like, yeah, they cut the scene. You can still see me. I have a moment,
And then
but they don't say anything.
have you had a thing where they like zoom in on you because you were a bigger thing, and it's like when they show an actor,
It's just you're just a B-roll at that point. Yeah,
but like
Of
they
course,
establish
of
you as a
course, of
character,
course.
and then you're like, that was a weird. Oh fuck, that
Yeah.
means my scene's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that with Brad
Yeah.
Wars.
And
Like,
I was directed that day by John Landis.
oh no.
It was a very big day for me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Followed by a not so big day for me. It was
Dude.
also my lesson of don't tell anybody.
Same with my
Because-
PTA film.
When it came out, I happened to be in New York staying with family. And I was just like, oh my God, I think the episode of that show airs tonight that I shot. And they were like,
Dude.
oh, well, we'll watch it. And
That
then,
is harsh.
And then I was like, all right, bye everybody. back to LA where I'm clearly succeeding.
I'm gonna fly back to that land of dreams. But that's the thing. These 4 movies, like any actor in them might not be in them. Like unless you're on the poster, and that's just so staggering. Look what happened to Kiersey Clemons in Flash. Like she's finally gonna be in this Flash movie. Part of the reason I'm supporting it so hard is like Kiersey. Like I know there's a lot of other issues with the movie, but like
Right.
Kiersey got cast as Iris West like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then like the Joss Whedon cut didn't have her in it. And then the Snyder cut didn't come out theatrically.
Wow.
So like that was her big break 8 years ago.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And she's a sweetie.
Completely unrelated and not a big break. Well, not entirely unrelated, but it just popped into my mind. Did you ever see the Rogue cut of
of X-Men.
Days of Future Past?
That's a choice.
I own it and I've never seen it.
It's cool, man. Because I'm not as big on that take on Rogue, but I think I got used to it and I liked it separately.
Yeah, but also the fact that they went like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Because they cut her from an entire movie because of a plot hole. Talk about respect. Listen, say what you want about those movies, and I have. But like, that's respect of being like, hey guys, there's a massive plot hole in this movie, all because this character is here. And doesn't it all have to do with the fact that she could simply just touch Bishop and then the entire movie is null and void, right?
It's sizable.
And so they were like, yeah, why doesn't she just do that? And then they got through the entire shooting of this draft that they had rewritten, and they just went like, let's just cut her out of the movie entirely.
And they cut like it's Anna Paquin of True Blood. Like she was at True Blood.
Yeah. She
at the time, that's a huge cut.
Even a bigger name.
Right. Like what Oscar nom young at like 8 and then like True Blood and then that. So to cut her is like, that's integrity-ish.
Yeah. Anyways, this popped into my mind when you were talking about that.
But yeah, 4 DC movies this year, and then
that's crazy that DC's releasing 4 movies the same after they announce that, hey, we're starting over.
Yeah, and they have to do the announcement in January for a movie that comes out in March. Shazam 2's out in like 8 weeks. Dude.
Studio industry,
7 weeks.
Studio industry is so fucking tough right now. Like these, I feel, man, it's exhausting.
It's actually
big.
I think that they might have to do it at the end of January because they're probably starting to promote Shazam 2 heavier. Like that might be why they're doing it now, because if you're looking at a movie that's out in 6 weeks, the press tour's got to start now. So they probably don't want to drown out their own press with the James Gunn announcement.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing that the lead of that movie is not causing any controversy.
I mean, it certainly is press.
It's a choice.
It's good. Can you imagine the PR at WB at any point in the last 5 years? Like every single movie.
Can I say it's going to start becoming clauses in their contracts.
Oh, I've
where like you literally.
We need tweet approval.
No. It's going to be like pro wrestling for a while, like pro wrestlers, there's certain people who it's like, no, you can't have social media.
Right.
You can't have
But
this
you
other
have
stuff.
to have social media because it's part of the job. So we have approval.
We're doing it. No. You don't actually, we're doing it on your behalf.
Yeah. This is your blue check mark. Yeah. I'm tweeting it.
Yeah. This isn't like, tweets by Hillary signed -H.
Right,
like it's not that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like,
dude. Not everyone's Ryan Reynolds. That's a master of the fucking media world. Like it's like scary out there. And like I had a company about a year ago that wanted me to work with them, and they wanted like approval rights of my tweets, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable with what you're paying me to do. Like, that's literally my voice.
Sure.
And so like, but when you're a $20 million franchise,
right? They have a lot to lose, so you understand it.
Yeah.
But you go, not for me. Yeah.
I cannot imagine what WB like. I feel for them because if you look at the actors, like they have a good cast, but
of like, do you mean like of the original DC?
Yeah, like the foundation I get.
Sure.
Like when you look at like Comic-Con and you see Hall H, you're like, look at that cast. Yeah. But then like these little chips have developed over 10 years.
And by the way, like it's a smaller cast entirely than all of Marvel, but Marvel also has their fucking fair
100%.
share of issues and problem people. But
and we discovered, especially over the last 3 years, as social's gotten bigger and the world's gotten more tempestuous. Like we're not picking favorites here.
Right.
But when you look statistically at any studio, WB between the Harry Potter franchise and DC, like I feel for them in a way that maybe
think about that. Yeah,
that's their two big things.
They're
the two things they own.
Man,
I think that's why I'm so invested in this Gunn announcement. Is I want WB to do well so bad because it feels personal.
You have me questioning so much. Like, wait, hang on.
I like today's like Jake Epiphany's.
Well, no, I want to fire up
what WB owns,
HBO Max, and I want to like.
That's another thing.
Think about
they're pulling shit left and right. Like off HBO Max because they're trying to like they pulled like 5 shows last week.
I thought you meant their Batgirling stuff.
No,
where they're like actually
they're pulling stuff that even was just up though, like fucking Westworld, like because they don't want to pay the actors residuals.
Really?
Yeah, they don't want to pay Westworld actors. They pulled it off the fucking platform.
Wasn't Westworld one of their like
biggest shows of all time? Yep, that's why it's expensive because those contracts got crazy. Dude, shit's crazy over there.
So they're just hemorrhaging money.
Yeah,
is what it sounds like.
Whoever bought it inherited like billions in loss.
Right.
So they're just trying to tourniquet wherever they can.
Did you notice our HBO Max logins?
Yep.
I'm Brack and she's
good.
And she's
good work.
Bubbles.
So yeah, it's. I mean, I'm just happy The Last of Us is good.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like they've always been making great television. But I feel like with White Lotus, Last of Us, like they're making some really good TV shows. Veep was a huge show. They make a ton of,
and they have a lot of great
stuff,
IP that they own, like Banshees, The West Wing, like they license well.
Right. I'm gonna try to see if they have like
our own stuff
from the DC multiverse is a whole section.
Yep.
They have a Max. I didn't know that. I thought this was like a WB show, Pennyworth.
That used to be on Epix.
Oh, Epix. I'm sorry.
And
yes.
they bought it, and it's so good, dude. This show is incredible.
Got it. Oh yeah, Peacemaker.
Yep.
That's great. I'm gonna assume that's still happening.
Yeah, season 2. I must.
God, DC makes so much stuff that you go, oh, never heard of this.
Yeah, a lot of the animated stuff I'm trying to learn, but
right.
like it's a volume issue. It's so much.
Yeah, that show. What's that show called again? The
Rich People Show.
Yeah, not Inheritance. People are screaming at us right now.
Yeah, they are.
With Culkin and all those people.
Rich People Problems. The
Yeah.
show.
I mean, all right, this is their section here. Last of Us, White Lotus, His Dark Materials, which isn't huge, but people are getting, obviously House of the Dragon.
Huge.
What other like narrative? Barry doing really well, but you're right though. They're all really good original.
Low budget.
Succession. There's the show.
Succession.
But
what
did I say? Inheritance.
But like, think about that. That's mid to low budget.
No, you're right.
I mean, obviously not House of the Dragon. I hear you yelling.
Right,
but like, otherwise, if you look at their big theatrical properties,
right.
I don't think any studio has
IPs.
struggled that hard with stuff out of their control. Like, no one at WB has had any control over the controversial stuff. And that's not been their fault. I feel bad.
They have Scooby-Doo.
Dude, I've heard that show is fucking problematic as hell.
Yeah.
And I'm not even one to usually like, I try not to be one of those people because like it's exhausting to be on Twitter and like, oh, I'm angry at you for existing. But man, I've heard some stuff.
I think Looney Tunes is set for a comeback.
I think Muppets is.
Isn't Muppets owned by Disney?
Is it? Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah, I think Muppets
Let's
is all
lean
owned
Looney Tunes.
That's
then.
all owned all by Disney. I think Muppets is due for the Chippendale treatment.
Oh, I'd love that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and here's the reality.
None of those actors
people
can mess up
listening
to
might
scale.
have kids. They might be like, oh no, they still make like a good Tiny Toon show. They might be.
Yeah, we're just not aware.
Oh, right. Space Jam.
A New Legacy also.
Space Jam was their other.
Oh, dude, what a rough
huge amount of money that they spent.
Has any studio had a run quite like this in 5 years?
Honestly, it's astounding they're still in business.
Like that. I wasn't exaggerating when I said how big this announcement is tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right.
Like they need the comeback of a lifetime tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's huge. And this is one of the only 5 studios left, like to scale.
Right.
You've got Paramount, Sony, Disney, WB, and Amazon? Like, because Amazon has MGM now?
Sure, yeah.
Like,
but that's an amalgamation. That's like,
So is it 4 to that? I mean, like, because Blumhouse isn't as big. It just does a lot of profit.
Right.
Annapurna, A24, that's all like we were saying. Like, I don't think there's a studio in the big 4 or 5 that needs a win as much as WB does.
Yeah, and I think Gunn's the right person to do that.
I totally agree. And Peter Safran's a genius.
Everybody just needs to fucking get off his ass about it. And also, like, I feel like what they need to do is they need to learn their lessons from the online Twitter Snyder fans.
I agree.
That means like you don't stop change. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm glad they changed Sonic's teeth.
Yeah.
But the fact that they did means that like it's
open season,
fucking season.
Yeah.
On fan outrage.
Yeah.
That they decided was important.
Look at how big of a mess they're in because of Superman. So even just sticking with WB.
Again?
Look at how big of a mess they're in because of Superman. Even sticking with WB. The fans.
It's really bad when you talk too fast for me. Because I am also a very fast talker. You
mentioned Sonic, and I was like
3 fucking syllables in a sentence of 10 words. Look at how big of a mess they are in with Superman. That was your sentence.
It was.
Look at the mess with Superman.
Grammatically accurate.
Look at the mess with Superman.
Play it back, audience.
Look at the mess with Superman.
I'm not wrong.
Look at the mess with. I mean, that's fucking.
You're welcome, audience. Look at how big of a mess they're in, specifically with Superman.
This is how sad is it that you and I are the only other people available that could play one another in a movie about us.
That's why we do a show.
Because nobody else will be able
possibly comprehend that experience.
Can like their mouths and their tongues and their brains.
They just don't work that way.
You and I are like fucking.
And when is the Micro Machines ad coming? When is the Micro Machines?
Worst superpower ever.
Oh yeah, it's completely stifling. It
What's your
doesn't help.
superpower? Oh, people don't understand me.
I articulate to me and Jake alone. That is what I do. But the Superman issue was fan entitlement is probably too strong, but the fan service of The Rock kind of going behind WB to get that done.
Sure.
And I love The Rock. I think that he was smart to do that. I think it was a very good move on The Rock's part to endear himself to the DC fans and the DC universe by bringing back Cavill.
Sure.
But since it was something that was so deep in the process of, everyone else had already said no, it had been so long. And now because he's back, that's the number one thing I see people complaining about. Well, we just got Cavill back. Oh, James Gunn fired Cavill.
We didn't get
James
him
Gunn
back.
didn't fire him.
He made a cameo
in a property that doesn't exist anymore. They're not moving forward with it. But because of that Superman 30 seconds, Gunn is getting 8 times the crap. If he hadn't come back for those 30 seconds,
100%.
Gunn would have a lot more leeway to breathe.
Right. And the irony that technically Gunn himself brought him back in Peacemaker, it wasn't him as the actor,
physically,
but that character,
Superman, was alongside the Justice League
in the same version that we're from this universe.
But nobody talks about what Gunn's doing right because people are so mad. Like, dude, the comments on my Instagram post where I was joking. Also, the fact the satire going over people's heads. I joked that Zach Levi was going to pause midway through the Shazam trailer and have James Gunn in his animated form from Harley Quinn interrupt and do the slate.
I like that.
It's a funny bit.
Great idea.
It's right there. And and I was like, he's canon to the DCU. The amount of people that were like, haha, it didn't happen. I was like, are you actually thinking?
Haha, didn't happen?
When the Shazam trailer.
Because of...
When the Shazam trailer dropped.
I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I was just so incredulous.
I thought you meant the animated version.
Oh, yeah,
Like that doesn't count as DCU. Got it.
But the incredulity of people being like, it didn't happen, haha. But when I was making a joke, but also the concept that like anything that James Gunn does is automatically wrong is so messy for DC, but he's also the only guy that can actually maybe do this because he's so much more foundational for the MCU than people realize.
Yeah.
Like the Guardians of the Galaxy changed what the MCU is hard stop. And he was a part of the brain trust to
100%.
make the shared universe. So yeah, I think tomorrow's huge, and I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be an exciting year no matter what, because for DC movies that don't connect, I'm still excited for them separately.
I just want good movies of things that I
want to
based
live
on
for 2 hours in a thing I like.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I want.
That's why I just want a good Superman movie. Like I want to fall back in love with that character the way that I did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
With Reeves. Well, speaking of Superman specifically, last week we talked all about how what was important to us in a Superman movie.
That was fun.
And recent birthday boy, Gilbert Short.
Oh yeah, the birthday boy himself.
If you're not on the Discord, I highly suggest you get on the podcast Discord.
It's free and full of birthdays
for all sorts of fun stuff. He called, I believe, and left a voicemail in response to that as our resident Superman fanboy.
I mean, he loves him.
Hey, Coy. Hey, Producer Jake. This is Gilbert up in the Bay Area, and I had a response to the question about Superman movies and what you wanted. I agree with everyone. I'm a Superman guy, and I want joy. I want action. I want romance. I want chemistry. I want something that takes us into tomorrow and instills us with hope. I think a problem with a lot of Superman media and a lot of Superman fans is that we're kind of stuck in the past. We kind of want to keep Superman in this stasis where he's always in the past when he's the man of tomorrow. He should be someone who inspires us to get better, always getting better. If you want an idea, I told Coy about it if he remembers. If not, I'll say it in the Discord. But there's also a story by Jeff Johns called Superman and the Legion of Superheroes, where he goes forward 1,000 years and deals with someone who has corrupted his message of peace, his message of inclusiveness, his message of justice in favor of something that empowers themselves. If that reminds you of anything going on in our world today, you've probably picked up what it's about. I recommended it to anyone. See if you can find it online. See if you can find it in stores. It's from about 15 years ago, so it might be a little harder, but I do recommend it. And so, yeah, I'm just excited for more Superman stuff. I'm excited for a plan, but this is what I personally want. I would like an unknown actor, just someone who has that, someone who can inspire, but, someone who has that same energy. it's very much just, someone who you can get behind, someone that yeah. But other than that, you guys have a good week. I hope everything goes well. I'd love to hear your take if you ever read Superman and the Legion of Superheroes. But other than that, stay sweaty, guys.
Gilbert Short, have you ever read this book?
I have not. I actually struggle with the Legion of Superheroes quite a bit because it's actually so big that like a lot of times there's so many characters that I get lost.
Oh, you just mean like you struggle with that group?
That group, yeah.
Oh,
Because I like when like the Avengers change members, but you usually know like half of them.
Right.
And I find myself like overwhelmed by Legionnaires and Legion. Like there's just a scope to it. And I'm not
45 members.
There's so many. And like they just throw them at you like you know them. And like I struggle with that kind of storytelling. And so like Bendis just did a run that there were times that I couldn't tell who was talking on a page because there were so many people even per page.
Interesting.
And like it's just not like how I read comics.
Sure, yeah.
But I would love if this is what they adapt because that might fix that. Like a lot of times a medium can help. If I'm endeared to an actor, if he has 2 lines, I'm going to be more invested than a drawing.
Right.
So like sometimes the medium enhances.
Right.
So if you've got a giant team in that format, that might make it me go like, I'd like to try this book out.
I'm curious based on what he said, whether or not that they're actually even in that specific story. Because if he's talking about a story in which just Superman goes to the future,
right.
I wonder if all of those other characters are even, they might not even be in that book. They might not even be there.
Yeah, that's fair.
It might be a story within that book.
Right.
But
that'd be an interesting way to do it.
I've never heard of that story, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like a fun, it sounds like a fun example of the fact that Superman should be brought to modern day and not constantly be this throwback.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like if we could acknowledge optimism being important today.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of nice.
Yeah. And I know you're not a wrestling fan, but I know Gil is. And over on like our wrestling show, we talk a lot about how people constantly use that term about wrestlers. Like, oh yeah, this guy's a throwback. This guy's a throwback. And it's sort of irritating because it still works. It's not, you can't be a throwback.
Oh, if it's not outdated.
When it's the thing that is good still.
Right.
Like, just because it maybe everybody else is trying too hard.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's I think that's kind of what he's talking about. It's like we all expect Superman to like, we need something new or we need whatever. And it's like, well, he can be quote a throwback, but also it works now.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. We need today to have optimism.
Right. Yeah.
We don't need someone to like, I think Fantastic Four as the throwback is fun because we already have other superhero teams. Superman is unique and we need to have him today.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that idea. I also, wrestling had a big event, didn't it? Yeah, this weekend?
Oh, Coy Jandro.
WrestleMania?
Nope. Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble.
You know what? Only because you brought it up. I'll tell you.
People are excited. It did 55% better than last year. It's done exceptionally well.
I'll tell you, the last, match / segment / storyline, is so good that it might top my list of things that I would show you.
Dude, that makes me so happy.
To try to get you invested.
My buddy Rob's writing over there now. And he wrote a big chunk of this one, and he's so proud.
You're not supposed to tell people that. What are you talking
really?
about? It's real. What are you talking about?
I mean, of course.
Writers. Nobody writes.
Yeah,
for wrestling.
He was just there wrestling.
It was such an incredibly fun. Well, especially because right now in the modern era, there's a huge problem with like not investing in long-term storytelling. In pro wrestling. And the story that's currently occurring with this one group of talent has been handled well for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's so good. I almost want to show it to you and just get like a live reaction because it's so like, I think that you would if I gave you a brief backstory, right? And then showed you the promo package that they always play like a catch up. Hey, in case you haven't been watching, here's a quick catch up of what's happened. If I showed you that and then we watched the match and the segment that followed, I guarantee you would have a reaction similar to people who have been following it for so long because it was just so fun. It was a throwback, if you will. It was a throwback segment.
The wrestler friend of mine, he's not a writer, he's a wrestler. He is like of our age and he's obsessed with that 80s and 90s era. So I think that having like our generation come up into the era of being suits creatively has been really helpful for a lot of mediums. I think comic books right now are really good because more late 20s, mid, early 30s are writing them and they came up in a good time of comics. And I think it's really interesting to see kind of like millennials take over from other generations with those throwbacks.
It's also what happened in the 80s and 90s with just comic books.
100%.
Was like, and I always try to explain this to both wrestling fans and comic fans and video game fans. Like the things that I enjoy, I'm sorry. I always try to explain this to non-wrestling comic book. Yeah. Which was like, people that I'm like my brother who was like, oh, you still play video games all the time, right? This was back when I was playing video games all the time. And I'm
Last of Us,
I'm like, yeah. And like trying to explain to him, I was like, yeah, the thing that happened is the same thing that happened with wrestling comics is like, for the first time, the people working were kids who liked it.
Right.
Because it wasn't that way in the 70s.
And I think there's a generation between that rebels against it because their parents liked it. So I think it's a 20, 30 year span because of that. It has to skip.
And so therefore, all of it matures.
Right.
Because those people kept reading it and matured themselves.
Yeah.
So then therefore, the stories that they decide to tell are more mature than the ones they read when they were kids.
The kids growing up now that grew up with Iron Man as a standard.
Right.
I think there's going to be a gap where there's 15 years where comic book movies are garbage or don't exist to scale.
Right. Yeah.
And then in like 40 years, they're going to be incredible because it's people that are making movies that are like Iron Man was what I watched as a kid. It'll be their David Fincher.
It's also a matter of adults making movies for kids or like old school Marvel. Like, oh, it's a bunch of suits being like, oh, we're making stories for kids.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's creators making these same things for themselves.
Right. We're going to get some R-rated shit like Seth Rogen making The Boys.
Yeah.
Like there'll be a generation because Seth Rogen's a great example of like that age.
Yeah.
He grew up on comic movies, not good. And now he's making Invincible. He's making The Boys. He's making art that's our tone.
Speaking of R-rated comic book adaptations that may or may not have succeeded, if you're not over on the Patreon, on this week's Patreon-only pod, remind me that I said this because we haven't recorded it yet. And I'll do it in the first one. I finally got around to the David Harbour Hellboy.
So many good pieces.
I have so many thoughts. You guys.
It's a rough puzzle, that puzzle.
So yeah, that's only on the Patreon-only pod.
Now, speaking of patrons, do we have a gift horse to unpunch?
We do have a gift horse to unpunch. If you have no idea what we're talking about, then thanks for joining the show for the first time ever, because we yap about this all the time. Each and every month, we select at random one of our gift horse or higher patrons. There is a higher tier than gift horse, and those people, by the way, get 2 entries into this contest. So we pick one of those at random. We throw their names into the wheelofnames.com, not a sponsor, just a very handy tool in randomizing a person or a name or a movie. I used to pick movies to watch sometimes.
That's fun.
It's a really fun way to
You have a
pick
list
movie.
with...
Yeah.
That's cool.
So anyways, wheelofnames.com, we throw it in there. We pick somebody at random. That person is named that month's official unpunchable gift horse of the month. You get to select something for Coy and I to watch. Last month, January's unpunchable gift horse of the month was Robin West Parker. Tasked us with watching a delightful animated movie, which we will be talking about next month at some point. We're always going to be sort of in the next month based on our recording schedule. You also get some sweet merch from the shop. And so without further ado, do you think we should see who is going to be the February unpunchable gift horse?
Very curious.
Oh, wait, some further ado.
Oh,
by the way,
further ado.
You are entering into this contest every month that you are a gift horse patron.
Have won many times.
So it's not like, oh, I won once. There's no point in me being a gift horse patron.
You stay unpunchable.
As long as you're at that tier, you're entered every single month, and it's completely random. So
let's see who we got. I'm excited.
Let's see who we have for the month of February 2023.
Who is our Valentine, our unpunchable Valentine horse?
Unpunchable gift horse of the month is Harold Stokes.
Harold Stokes doing the work. Very excited. Our February unpunchable gift horse.
Our romantic gift horse.
The gifts it carries are like roses and rings and flowers and other chocolates. I'm very excited. I've had some mic issues today. It's going crazy.
You got
over
so
here.
excited that you knocked your microphone
I moved
over.
my arm around excitedly. Harold Stokes, congratulations.
Congrats, Harold. Keep an eye on your email. We will send a message to you explaining how you can claim your winnings, and of course, shoot us a message either on Twitter or social media or in the Patreon itself or on the Discord and let us know what you'd like us to watch. The Discord, of course, is a great place to connect with other listeners of the show and just generally shoot the shit with this really awesome little community of fellow pop culture nerds and movie fans and gamers and all the things. And that Discord link is found at koicast.com. The Discord, by the way, completely free. Has nothing to do with the Patreon.
Yeah. Just jump in there. It's all yours. There's and it's always active. Lots of stuff going on in there. It's lovely. And great emojis, by the way. Jake does good work. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. I'm always entertained by the emojis. I literally, I've screenshotted them because I giggled because I'm like an old man. I'm like, look what they made. Please do rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Also now on Spotify Podcasts, you can rate. So if you want to review, head on over to Apple Podcasts. If you want to rate, head on over to Spotify. We did get 2 new reviews,
Since
yeah, and one of them is so tone
really?
deaf and really funny, and then one's really kind. I'm a really big fan of both of these reviews for different reasons.
Okay, are you doing this because you want to read some of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I gotta pull it up though because I wasn't thinking. I was like telling you.
Why don't you do more of that and I'll pull up the reviews?
Dope. So listen, stay tuned. Rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can also check out koicast.com for merch. We got shirts. We got mugs. We got masks. And then you can join the Patreon and you could get your chance to win one of those shirts as well as being a part of the entire community over there. It's rad. And every week on Patreon, we discuss the art we have consumed the week prior. And we watched a lot over the December holidays. We're catching up with tons of stuff over on Patreon. You can check us out on social media at KoiJandro and at Jake Lloyd Bacon. If you use hashtag KoiCast, gets our attention. Did you find those 2 new ones?
I did find those 2 new ones.
They're very funny.
The very first one ever, well, not the first one ever. The very first one came on the 19th from Mexico.
Oh, international.
And the title of the review is Cool. 3 stars.
That's the one. This one's so funny.
It's cool if you want to hear about nerd movie news, but skip the episodes about Letterboxd because these people are basic as fuck. Even the guy that says he watches, quote, indie movies only knows how to talk about mainstream Sundance movies.
So I just need to give this the credit it deserves. Literally, I opened the show by saying I love pop culture, comic books, and movies, and then proceed to talk about the most pop culture-y of things. And I'm not sure.
In fairness, he's talking about me. He says that I'm not indie enough for him.
Oh, right.
Not
enough. What's his name? The dude that plays Peter B. Parker. Not enough of his
Jake Johnson.
Yeah, not enough Jake Johnson mumblecore joints for his liking. I just thought that was hilarious.
He only knows how to talk about mainstream Sundance.
Not underground Sundance.
Sundance.
Not
movies.
midnight Sundance movies.
Well, listen, you can skip every Letterboxd episode. All
first
3 of them since
we've been doing this
3 years.
Yeah. And there'll be 2 this year. Spoiler alert.
I mean, listen, he still gave us 3 stars. He still says it's cool. So thanks.
Thanks, man.
Sorry that we're not going to do as much news anymore. And the next one comes from Macdoor in the US. Fun community of pop culture fans. 5 stars. Koi and Jake are continuing to foster a wonderful community of wonder about comics, movies, TV, and more. Through their conversations on pop culture, personal stories, and fun games, often suggested on the spot by hotline callers, they take us on a new journey every time. Come join the fun and don't forget to join the Discord community once you're on board. It's a good time, brought to you by Dragon Radio.
I love that one.
Well done. Thanks for that.
Yeah, the Discord plug made me remember that great review because that is a community that I really like over on the Discord, and that person acknowledged
And you know what? It's been a long time. We'll do a review giveaway one day soon here. In the next
that
couple
person's
months.
in there.
Maybe around our anniversary mark.
That's coming up.
Yeah, so go ahead and make sure you're getting all your reviews in, and we'll pick one of those, and we'll give some goods.
Yeah. Get some reviews in.
Maybe once we get our first KoiCast hat going.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We can give out the first KoiCast hat.
We should give away the first hat
to the best review.
The first minted hat.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
So we'll do that in a couple months. So get all your reviews in if you've never left it, and if you have left a review, especially if you left one that was 2 years old or 3 years old when the show just started, update it because it'll bring your review right back to the top. And it'll just act like a new review.
This podcast is almost old enough to go to preschool. You get in there. You leave it. That's crazy. All right, 818-794. It's how you get your voice on this beautiful podcast, and that is you co-hosting. We appreciate it.
What's the rest of the number?
Yeah.
You just
3
said,
letters isn't enough.
You just
3
said
numbers.
6.
Guys, it's going well.
818-794, you said.
I'm in the 90s again when it was 7, but I missed one.
All right. Well, you know what? 2023, the year of, let's slow down a little bit.
Let's take it down. Let's take it down.
Hey, relax.
All right. You're right. 818-794. 818-794-0722. That's 818-794-0722.
Too slow. A little bit quicker.
Or you can send a voice memo to contact@koicast.com. Get those calls in there. We love doing them. And we'll be back next week for our hot and hotline heavy call in the middle of February. It's gonna be Valentine's episode. So we're gonna be talking.
We'll be back in 2 weeks.
2 weeks talking all sorts of lovey-dovey goodness and listen to those hotline calls. So we appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, as always, to Comic Books for existing.
Scott and I are here, along with
Jake Lloyd Bacon.
We're both actors and comedians, but far more importantly, we're both professional wrestling fans.
Pro wrestling is a blast. It is over the top. It is ridiculous. It is comedic, dramatic, and everything in between.
And so is our show. We talk about old wrestling.
We talk about new wrestling.
We talk about wrestling in the future.
We talk about wrestling in our fantasies.
So tune in at pwpowskis.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.